Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, new listeners, anyone who's listening beyond the omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, April 1st, Sunday, April 2nd, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you could join me this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies, wherever you may be listening. If you're listening live right now, you may be listening to me on KPNL Radio, which you can find on kpnl-db.com. Actually, it's KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. You may also find us on eTalk Radio, which you can find on etalk.tv/radio, as well as Spreaker under We Are Paradox Media. If you want to listen to us in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, you can listen to us under We Are Paradox Media at Spreaker, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Let's see. Did I already say Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, Podvine, as well as YouTube? We are live on there as well. We are also live on Twitch right now. So please, if you don't mind, mosey on over to our YouTube. Please subscribe and like any video that you've either listened to or watched. As we are back on video once more. So, it was for quite a while we were on video on Periscope, but then Periscope got bought out by Twitter. And I don't know, we've been over there a couple times, but I don't know, I have way more followers on Facebook, so I tend to be over here more. So tonight we are doing story time with me, TessaTNT, and then tomorrow night we have Mr. J and Miss Marie Yates, and they're an awesome paranormal couple. They've done so much as far as paranormal investigations. They've been on a ton of paranormal shows, so that show is going to be epic. Can't wait to do it. Next weekend is going to be a little different as we have Easter. Easter is already upon us. I can't believe it. I was thinking it was at the end of this coming month, but it's not. Please excuse my congestion. I do have a lovely spring cold going on. And I did forget to do something. I actually forgot to upload my tunes for story time. So let me upload this one really quick. So we have a little background music to go along with these stories. It fills it out a little bit more. I kind of enjoy that. That way you're not just listening to me and the clock tick. And I'm hoping the way I have my microphone set, you don't hear the fan. Okay, so let's do the creeper. That'll work. And I think that should be enough. I might boost it up just a little. So I've been kind of playing around with this sound since I've been doing, playing with the butt and the banana butt. It's been kind of funny. So let me know if this is too loud, but it looks just right. It might even still be too low. Let's pump it up just a little bit more. 62 looks good. But let me know in the chat. Also, let me pull up this chat really quick here on my phone. Because for some reason, like, I can see what I put in Facebook over here. I even got a little squeak in my throat when I breathe in. I feel like Wheezy from the Jeffersons. Jeez, oh Pete. But yeah, I don't want to miss any comments. So I just turned down my ringer. Aww. Today is April Fool's Day, and for a lot of people, it's a lot of fun. But when I just pulled up Facebook, and I was reminded earlier, like, my husband didn't say anything, and I felt bad because I didn't remember till I was getting everything together, and then something popped in my head. This is the anniversary of not only my husband's brother's death, but my nephews, Charlie, Steve, and Jim, and my niece, Chrissy, their dad had to go in and get something removed from his brain. I think he had some sort of tumor or whatnot. And the guy that was doing the surgery was a drinker. And unfortunately, they cut too deep into the, I just had it in there, the sagittal sinus. And, they're talking, joking around, whatever, and not even paying attention to the color of the blood. They didn't have the oxygen correct. So, yeah, very sad. They lost a very wonderful person that day, and I wish I could have met him because I've heard a lot of amazing stories. But rest in peace, Steve Peterson, and we'll see you on the other side. And I just want to send out love and prayers to the family because that's a very sad situation. Same thing kind of happened to me when my dad passed, which is January 7th. I didn't even realize. Which is January 7th. Okay. Yay, Julia. Thank you. Thanks, Julia. Let me type that really quick. Thanks, Jules. Julia, she's got my back. Aw. Yeah, I've been working on the sound for a while. But yeah, even my dad's anniversary, I went through the day and then, oh yeah, my dad passed away today. And it's been, holy shit, almost 20 years since he passed, and it feels like just yesterday. So you don't really get over it. You just kind of get used to it. You kind of learn to live with it. Let me get a hold of my daughter really quick, too, to bring the hellhounds in. Hopefully she gets this. I might have to call her. Oh, yeah, they're starting to get their stuff on. It's like once they hear me talking in here, then they start to rumble. Can you please bring the hellhounds in? And I might just call her for extra measure, because we don't need no dang hellhounds in the background. I don't know, it could actually add to the whole experience, but I don't think so. Can you please bring in the hellhounds? They were being quiet, but now they're starting to, get all feisty. Awesome. Thank you. Love you too. Oh, I love my kids. Nova, she's 19 now. I still can't believe it. Excuse me. But yeah, I've been waking up with I don't know if you guys watch SNL, the Yeet Skirt song. Yeet, skirt, yeet, skirt, skirt, yeet. Drop it, lock it, pop it. I've been waking up with that in my head for the last couple days. Hello, beautiful sister Sandra. So lovely to see you. I love your pictures of your granddaughter. They're awesome. All right. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of shit in the news, and I really don't want to talk about it because a lot of it's depressing. Trump has been charged again, and I don't know if you saw the thing that I posted the other day about The Simpsons and how a lot of their timelines tend to come true. So according to The Simpsons, Trump will be president again in 2024. We'll see what happens. Also, nuclear war between America and China. What was the other one? Oh, Russia, forget the Soviet Union, something like that. But that happened last year. They don't want to be remembered as that. They want to be remembered as Russia. But that was pretty interesting. If you didn't see that, go to my Facebook page. It's on there. What else? Tornadoes going crazy. Global warming, peeps. It is happening. But yeah, it's we have this atmospheric river going through California, and then we're getting hella snow. California is getting a lot of snow. People from like Utah and all over actually sent $200 to those guys to aid in the retrieval of people up there in California that are not used to this stuff. Saving them, and yeah, tornadoes everywhere, even places that should not have tornadoes now. So I don't know. I just think it's going to get crazier and crazier every year. And then we were talking last weekend on the Paranormal Forum about, the volcanic action and volcanoes erupting everywhere. Our friend Johnny is saying there's going to be one erupting in California. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, kind of something to look at or look forward to, or not so much. Chemtrails, yes. Man-made weather. Yeah, and when I'm down in Phoenix, there's chemtrails a lot, but there's chemtrails here too. I think there's chemtrails everywhere. So anytime you see a jet stream and it's like an X, that's supposed to be chemtrails. Yeah, maybe we'll do something on that next weekend, Julia, because I know we got our dates confused and stuff. So maybe we'll have you on the 8th or 9th. I know the 9th is Easter, and everybody's going to be expecting me to go do something, but I'll do the Easter egg stuff and stuff like that with the family in the morning, and they can go to Cortez or wherever in the evening, and I can do my show. But yeah, and I've seen different things about that, Julia, where so she said they fly out of the airport run by the CIA. They fly out of general airports as well, and there's been pictures that people go on there, and instead of being filled with seats and stuff, there's different containers and whatnot that put it out. And one of my friends, Carl, is no longer, well, he is my friend, but he doesn't come and visit with me anymore. But we got into it about chemtrails, and he's like, those are just jet streams. And I'm like, well, I know what jet streams are. Like, they show up and then they dissipate like jet streams do. But chemtrails tend to stick around a little longer. I don't know, and people would talk about conspiracy theorists and stuff like that and how we're all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But then time and time again, all these different things come true or come to pass, and they're, contrails, chemtrails, yeah. So whatever. Okay, so let's get out of that. We'll do that next weekend. If you want, it's up to you, Julia. But tonight we are going to do death. So this is a history of man's obsessions and fears. This is by Mr. Robert Wilkins. He's done a very good job with this, and there's a lot of interesting and disturbing facts within this book. So this part of 20th century embalming is step-by-step embalming. So in general, the sooner embalming is started, the fewer the difficulties, especially those problems brought about by coagulation of the blood. Nevertheless, cleanliness and good hygiene are paramount considerations at all times. Consequently, the embalming process begins with a thorough washing of the dead body with soap and water. Next, the embalmer chooses the vein he will use to drain the blood from the body and the artery through which the preservative will be injected into the body. Sometimes 2 drainage veins are used, the femoral in the groin below the heart and the axillary in the armpit above the heart. Massaging in the direction of the heart helps to break up small clots that may have formed in the blood vessels. By clearing such obstructions, the injection of fluid can be facilitated. If the axillary artery in the armpit is used, 2 or 3 pints of preservative are injected in the back of the hand. Injected in the direction of the hand. Fluid will begin to fill the arm, and the veins on the back of the hand will become prominent as the fluid circulates towards the heart and eventually drainage out of the body. When the fluid is directed towards the head, the cheeks become fuller and firmer, and the eyeballs and surrounding skin become harder. When between 4 and 6 pints of fluid have been injected, it is time to start draining from a vein. It is axiomatic that inadequate drainage will result in poor preservation and premature decomposition. Initially, the fluid that is drained is thick blood, but as the embalming fluid circulates in the body, the blood draining out becomes thinner and thinner. If drainage from a vein proves difficult, it may become necessary to drain directly from the heart by using a wide-bore trocar. Circulation of the embalming fluid is facilitated by devices such as handheld vibrators and rolling massagers, or even by manual shaking or rocking of the table. Over-enthusiastic massage is to be discouraged, since the skin of a corpse is extremely vulnerable to trauma. In extreme cases, when drainage is meager, outflow can sometimes be enhanced by delivering a heavy blow with a closed fist onto the breastbone in order to loosen blood clots. Less draconian methods of encouraging drainage include the simple expedient of raising the deceased's feet off the table by 10 to 15 inches. The embalming procedure just described will generally ensure that the vessels of the torso, limbs, head, and neck are drained of blood and replaced by preservative fluid, which will harden the tissue and delay decomposition. But what of organs, such as the intestines, which harbor countless millions of bacteria and which are not reached by the embalming fluid? Cavity embalming has been introduced to prevent such organs causing rapid decomposition and putrefaction. The principle of cavity embalming is simple. A trocar is plunged into the abdomen just above the navel and is thrust in all directions in order to pierce the stomach. Intestines, rectum, bladder, and liver, which is usually engorged with blood, sucking out bits of tissue, blood clots, food, feces, intestinal gases, and urine. The instrument is then pushed through the diaphragm and into the chest, and the lacerating and sucking continue. The process is akin to sucking out a blocked drain. When suction through the trocar is complete, concentrated preserving fluids are introduced into the abdomen and chest in order to reduce the likelihood of decomposition. Special attention is paid to the face, since this is the part of the body left uncovered. At death, the lower jaw falls downwards and backwards, and the mouth hangs open. I've actually seen videos about this. I don't know if you've watched this lady. She does a lot of interesting stories, but one of them was how they close the jaw. I'm trying to remember what she's called, but I'll look that up during next break. The embalmer closes the mouth by an intricate process of internal stitching. A needle is passed from the inner surface of the lower lip, up in front of the gums, through into one nostril, across to the other nostril, and back again into the mouth behind the upper lip. The thread is drawn tight, pulling the lower jaw upwards and forwards. Another method is to take the needle from behind the lower lip, down below the bone of the lower jaw, up through the floor of the mouth, out between the teeth, and into the nose. Dentures are replaced before the knot is finally tied. If there are no dentures, cotton wool is placed between and in front of the gums in order to give a more natural appearance. A great deal of an embalmer's expertise is in producing a natural and pleasing contour to the mouth. Most embalmers aim for a slight separation of the lips after a pumice has been used to polish and expose teeth. I think it's a pumice, not pumice. A colorless nail polish may be applied to the teeth with a pleasing effect. Yeah, because stuff kind of tends to dry out, so I could see how that would work. Never thought of that. Alternative procedures done only with the family's permission include loosening protruding teeth with forceps and realigning and removal of protruding teeth and the replacement with a cardboard strip. The appearance of the eyes is important. They must be neither bulging nor sunken. Contact with concentrated preserving fluids tends to produce dehydration, wrinkling, and hardening of the eyelids. Sunken eyes can be corrected by slipping a thin piece of cotton or tissue paper under the lids. Those that are grossly sunken can be corrected by an injection of cream directly into the eyeball. Eyelids can be helped to remain closed by coating the margins with Vaseline or eye ointment. Modern embalmers do not aim to preserve a corpse for longer than a week or so. Nevertheless, there are a small number of outstanding examples of exceptionally well-preserved bodies. Lennon and Eva Peron are two cases in point. The embalmers of ancient Egypt were often treated in a very ambivalent way, being venerated and despised. They were essential to preserve a body for use in the afterlife, yet because of abhorrence of the idea of mutilating the dead, the cutters were ritually stoned after they had made the first incisions. Today, embalmers are neither venerated nor despised, though social commentators openly question the precepts upon which these expensive practices are based. So the next one is preservation by freezing. Let me kind of nudge this over. You almost saw my mermaid picture. So the fact that bodies can be preserved almost indefinitely by low temperatures was poignantly demonstrated in 1954 with the discovery of the Inca prints on Mount Cerro El Plomo in Chile. The body of a 10-year-old child was found by a shepherd near Santiago at an altitude of 14,000. He had died 500 years before, probably after having been lost and had squatted in the cave to keep warm. The state of preservation was remarkably good. He was dressed in a tunic, wore embroidered leather slippers, carried a doll carved from shell, and had a colored bag containing his nail parings, cut hair, and milk teeth. Since there were no obvious signs of violence, it seems unlikely that the child was murdered, although it is known that as part of Inca religious ceremonies, youths were also taken up into the Andes, made intoxicated with alcohol, corn, beer, and narcotic cocoa leaf, and sacrificed by strangulation. So I'm thinking since he was found with a bag of these certain things, this was a sacrifice. And as I was reading this, I was thinking, this sounds like a sacrifice. I don't think he just went in there to get warm. I think he was an actual sacrifice. Cryonics. The reports of death are greatly exaggerated. Mark Twain, 1835 to 1910. The science of cryonics depends upon two basic premises. That the human body can be preserved indefinitely if stored at a very low temperature, and that, given enough time, medical science will find a cure for the disease that killed you. Reverse its pathological effect, aka death, and bring you back to life. At the time of writing, it is estimated that between 11 and 15 corpses have been frozen and are patiently awaiting future thawing. Though not all of them can be accurately described as corpses, since some of the people who opted for neurosuspension alone at a saving of roughly $60,000 are stored as disembodied heads. Ew. Yeah, and I know, okay, so I'm wondering when this was written, because I know at this point, there's way more than that. So many people are, cryogenically frozen. Let me see if I can find, real quick, when this was written. Oh, well, that explains it. So copyright was in 1990. Sorry, guys. I had a bad cold this week. Still trying to kick the NyQuil and DayQuil. But I still have, like, in between here and here, some congestion. But yeah, disembodied heads, that reminds me of Futurama, where Nixon's head was there. He's not a crook. Cryobiologists, those scientists who study the preservation of organs and tissues at low temperatures, accuse cryonicists of being charlatans who have found a lucrative income by merchandising a totally unrealistic method of achieving immortality. They're freezing meat, not living cells, as Dr. David Pegg, a cryobiologist at Cambridge University, so succinctly puts it. Essentially, the biologists maintain that the freezing process itself produces such profound and irreversible damage to the cells of the body that resuscitation and restoration to normal function will never be possible. The reposit from the cryonicists is that nothing will be impossible to the technologists of the future, not even the repair of the very cellular damage caused by today's imperfect freezing methods. The maxim of cryonics is that it is better to have even a small prospect of immortality, however enormous and statistical odds might be against cure and resuscitation, than the absolute certainty of total bodily destruction which is brought about by burial or cremation, religious afterlife notwithstanding. So then that brings me to AI and like Avatar, can we take, the person's thoughts and feelings and everything and put that over into an AI or an avatar or something like that? The prospects are endless. The freezing process. The persuasiveness of the cryonicists' arguments owes much to the subtle interweaving of fear of death and hope for immortality, all couched in scientific jargon. Unfortunately, much of the published scientific material is quoted out of context and consequently often has little or no relevance to the issues being debated. Death is divided by cryonicists into 3 stages. 1. The cessation of respiration and circulation of blood, i.e., the failure of the lungs and heart. In this stage, resuscitation is possible given the close proximity of medical expertise and equipment. 2. That at which resuscitation is no longer possible with today's technology, but in which not all the cells of the body are dead. 3. That at which all the individual cells are irreversibly dead. Stage 2 is sometimes called suspended death or cryonic suspension, and is the time during which the body can be thought of as dead, but not very dead. It is in this second stage that cryonicists believe the death process may be ultimately reversed by the scientists of the future. In the first cryonic suspension took place in 1966. A woman was frozen but was later thawed and buried when the relatives had second thoughts. The distinction of being the first freeze must therefore go to James Bedford, a 73-year-old psychology teacher who was frozen in 1967 by Cryonic Society of California, an origination run by Robert Nelson, a television repairman. Don't trust the cable guy. Oh. 3 years later, a newspaper reporter discovered the abandoned and decaying bodies of 8 of Nelson's clients. Oh no. Nelson was sued in order to pay $900,000 to the families of the deceased. Bedford, however, was not one of the 8, having been previously transferred to the care of another cryonic organization. The financial problems benevolent cryonic organizations, and a number of them have had to return the bodies to relatives when funds to pay for liquid nitrogen have run out. The wish to be frozen after death is a highly personal decision with both legal and financial implications to the freeze, and is not a procedure that can be instigated at your deathbed by yourself or your relatives. Freezing must be planned years before, preferably when you are young and healthy, in order to make adequate financial provision. Even with such fiscal forethought, it would appear that the chances of successful freezing are inordinately affected by the location in which you die. If you are a client of Alcott Life Extension Foundation, the optimal place to have your heart attack is within the greater Los Angeles area, always assuming that living in LA would not accelerate hardening of the otherwise healthy arteries, since that is the base of Alcor's Emergency Response System, ERS, a complex network of trained technicians on 24-hour alert. Less sophisticated networks are located in Northern California, Indiana, Florida, and Britain. Paid-up members wear a metal tag at all times in order that brief instructions can be gleaned by passers-by about emergency stabilization. This advice would then be supplemented by telephoning the freezing center, which would dispatch the Los Angeles Rescue and Transport System, LARATS, to the scene. A fully equipped ambulance carrying state-of-the-art mobile advanced life support systems, MALS, including heart-lung machine, pumps, oxygenator, heat exchanger, and independent power supply for members living within the LARATS region. Rapid response in the event of an emergency is often just a phone call away. And for the rest of us, with enough prior warning, technicians will be sent to stand by at the patient's bedside. When death is diagnosed, the corpse is promptly connected to a heart-lungs resuscitator, HLR, to maintain circulation and respiration. Drugs, such as anticoagulants, are administered, and external cooling begins by packing in water ice. The femoral vessels in the groin are used to facilitate further cooling. Outside the LARATS area, the body is taken to a local mortuary, and the blood is replaced by tissue preservation solution, TPS, packed in ice and airlifted with minimum delay to California. Besides preservation of the tissues, there is the need to protect the tissues from injury brought about by the freezing process itself. Such cryoprotection is afforded by substances such as glycerol and sucrose. The perfusion pressures of the injected solutions are monitored by direct visualization. Through a small hole made in the skull, observations are made to detect any swelling of the brain. Before the scalp is sewn over, a patient is then placed. A probe to measure the surface temperature of the brain is left in situ. The patient is then placed in 2 protective plastic bags and slowly cooled in a bath of silicone oil over 2 or 3 days, down to a temperature of minus 77 degrees Celsius. The patient is then put in a pre-cooled sleeping bag and gently placed in a special storage unit, likened to a large thermos flask, cooled by liquid nitrogen down to a temperature of negative 196 degrees Celsius. Whew. The body is then protected against fire vandalism and seismic damage to await the brave new world. So there is a picture here, and it says Juan and Eva Perón, which we read about earlier, reunited in death, lie side by side in the presidential chapel in Olivos, 10 December 1974. Her body is reputed to have been experimentally or expertly embalmed. So here's the picture. reunited again after death. What a lovely thing. Many of the practices that are now carried out on fee-paying clients of American cryonic organizations were first mooted by Robert Ettinger. Sorry, I was just looking over in the chat room. I see people going in and out, but I'm not seeing a lot of anything else. All right. A college physicist in his book, The Prospect of Immortality. It was Ettinger who identified the need for cryonic preservation, its likely methods, and the inevitable difficulties, practical, social, and ethical. Ettinger looked forward to a world free from death, in which everyone lived eternal and fulfilled lives. Not all of us would agree with Ettinger's utopia. I am convinced that in a few hundred years the words of Shakespeare, for example, will interest us no more than the grunting of swine in wallow. Not only will his work be far too weak in intellect and written in too vague and puny language, but the problems which concerned him will be, in the main, no more than historical curiosities. Neither greed nor lust nor ambition will in that society have any recognizable similarity to the qualities we know. Ettinger cited a number of cases of revival after death and gave pride of place to a Soviet professor who had been involved in a road traffic accident in 1962. He sustained a fractured skull, brain injuries, 9 broken ribs, and a punctured chest, fractured pelvis, ruptured bladder, paralysis of his limbs, and poor circulation and respiration. He died 4 times and was resuscitated. In 1963, he was still alive and improving. While such anecdotes testified to a dogged determination to cling to life, they did nothing to further the debate about the merits of cryonics. Today's zealots are just as prone to quoting portentous-sounding but irrelevant material in furtherance of their arguments concerning the scientific legitimacy of cryonics. The fact remains undisputed even by cryonicists that no human organ has yet been frozen down to the temperatures necessary for long-term preservation and subsequently recover its formal function upon rewarming. Such recovery of function may well be achieved in the future. But will the technology exist to correct the additional injuries perpetrated on those organs by today's inadequate freezing methods? The cryonicists are in no doubt. So that reminds me, so I had to go to UPS and send off the shitty-ass router that they sent me. I'm like, hey, I need the big round one. They sent me the little flat, like tiny one that does not work for me or this show. And when I went in there, there was one of those red and white, like organ donor coolers just sitting on the counter and nobody there. So I could have gone in there and just snagged it and took off with it and they wouldn't have known. But yeah, I was just like, holy shit. Like they should have taken that immediately and put it away. They should have been quicker because, there's an organ just on ice for somebody who needs it. So the question whether freezing and resuscitation will ever become a reality is not as interesting as debating some of the implications and consequences of successful cryonic preservation. Recall the 500 million people embalmed in ancient Egypt, and remember the sole purpose of mummification was ultimate rebirth. Suppose that, by some miracle, all the mummies had escaped the attentions of plunderers and were intact today. Further purpose that 20th century medicine could revive those ancient Egyptians, cure their fatal diseases, and grant them life anew, how many would we resuscitate? Would we really seriously think of bringing back to life all 500 million? And if not, whom would we choose? Pharaohs, of course, a few priests, some token peasants. But what about the other 4,099 slash 999 slash 99? So like 499, basically million. 499.99 million. What about the vast majority of average citizens, such as you and me? The official answers to the who would be bothered. Okay, so let's go back to that. Is it really up to us to bring these people back, or are they embalming for like the end times when all bodies are supposed to rise up for the last battle against good and evil? That's more what I'm thinking. Like, I'm not thinking like, hey, it's 2052, let's go resurrect all these pharaohs and such. I don't think so. I think it's preservation of the body for that final battle, or whatever, for the way the earth is supposed to be. And then people wonder about oh, well, if I get cremated, will I be resurrected in the end times? I think so. Hi, Mike. Yeah, so I don't care if you're buried, if you're mummified, if you're cremated, whatever. I'm pretty sure if you're meant to be, you will be resurrected in the end times. So the official answers to the who would be bothered question have a hollow ring. Hi, Mike. The first reason given is to why our descendants would want to revive us is their respect of or for human life and concern for the medical problems of the long dead lying mute and disease-ridden in a future elysium of perpetual health. The second reason is even more limp, goodwill. The third and final reason is a cross between altruism and scientific machismo. Dramatically recovering patients who a century ago took this bet to opt for cryonic resurrection and showing them the new world they won might well be an interesting and appealing activity for a future proud of its achievements. Oh my goodness. Intimately bound up with why bother is where would we put them all? Integer saw no problem. He calculated that the frozen population would increase by 4 billion every 30 years. He also guessed that it would be 300 years before civilization reaches immortality level. That made a grand total of 40 billion to revive and relocate. Holy shnikes. There's ample room in our planet for 40 billion people. Is there really? So this was written in 1990, so maybe they're not where we are right now. Most of the land surface is thinly populated with vast areas of the Antarctic. The Antarctic, the jungles of South America and Africa, the deserts of Australia, Asia, Africa, and the United States virtually empty. And when these are full, Edinger suggested honeycombing the earth with vast underground complexes or setting up homes on some distant asteroid. With eternal wall-to-wall soaps at game shows on a remote lump of rock orbiting beyond Mars. Perhaps resuscitees would begin to look back to the good old days when death came as a blessed release. The problem of age was easily resolved. If a future technology society was able to bring you back to life, it would also be able to rejuvenate you to look as young as you wished with the physical features you had always wanted. So that brings me back to the whole AI or avatar thing. So putting your thoughts, your memories, everything into this other being. That's an avatar. Pretty intriguing. The universe would consist entirely of Venuses and Adonises, or Adonises. Good news indeed for the fat, the gawk, and the disproportioned. But what an even greater boon it would be for those babies born with congenital malformations. All that parents would need to decide was whether such children were to live or be frozen. According to Edinger, freezing a hideously deformed and defective child would be an act of true mercy because of the laudable intention of future cure. For parents of a child who has been frozen after death, it is postulated that the grieving process will be markedly attenuated, since in some sense the child is less than dead. By similar reasoning, it is argued that bereavement in general would become less traumatic emotionally, since death would have lost its sting. Chronicists argue that, ideally, people should be revived in the company of people they know, presumably in order to be able to talk about a common experience past. But there can be no guarantee of synchronous resuscitation, and more reason to predict the thawing of family members would not take place sequentially. Suppose a grandfather died at an average age of a cancer which had spread throughout the body, wreaking havoc on the function of every organ of the body. Suppose further that his grandson had died of a bullet wound in the heart in his mid-20s. It would be reasonable to suppose that the effects of a single bullet would be simpler to rectify than the multitudinous damage of a decimated cancer. Is the grandson to be revived before his grandfather? Is the natural subsequence of the generations to be thereby reversed? Similar familiar complications can be envisaged if a widow remarried after her husband's death. What would happen when the time came for resuscitation of the woman and her two husbands? Edinger stated rather dubiously that the lover of her youth is likely to be the dearer, and his answer to this problem was simply to stagger resuscitation. The widow would be thought first, followed by her second husband. They would then live together until such time as they could separate by mutual consent. Only then would the first husband be resuscitated. In the meantime, the woman would have undergone a brainwash to expunge all memory of her second husband, and everyone would live happily everlasting ever after. I'm starting to get a build up here. We got 5 more minutes. One of the greatest and most fundamental of the ethical questions concerning successful cryonic resuscitation concerns the identity of the person brought back to life. Replacement surgery can substitute for original and diseased organs. A pump will circulate the blood, a bellows will take over respiration, and a sophisticated filter will serve as kidney. But what about the brain? With its unique blend of personality, temperament, and memory, how can a machine substitute for your ego and very essence of what makes you unique, an individual and different from everyone else? It is a point reluctantly conceded by cryonicists. The only valid scientific uncertainty of cryonic suspension today is possible memory and identity loss due to imperfect brain preservation. But the uncertainty is not reckoned to be very great. The dubious reassurance is given that long-term memory will be preserved and that the freezes and thaws identities will be the same. If this turns out not to be the case, the questions relating to the family systems and generations will be of academic interest only, since the person resuscitated will be aware of his own identity and be less than interested in the identity of his relatives. See, I don't agree with that. Like, I would remember more my family, the generations before me, the generations after me, instead of, education. We go through education and a lot of shit we knock out because it's not pertinent. We don't need it. But family is family and that stays forever. So I don't agree with that shit. Those cryonicists can suck it. Okay. The success of cryonic suspension and one's chances of ultimate revitalization could be profoundly affected by the mode of one's death. Ideally, one should die of an accident that would preserve the body's basic structure and pose the fewest problems for the technicians of the future. A simple severance of the spinal cord, perhaps. Complicated multi-organ pathology would probably ensure your suspension for more centuries. The worst possible demise would be to be killed in a grossly mutilating accident, such as an explosion or an air crash, or to be irrevocably mutilated altogether. Hold on, where did I go? Irrevocably altogether, as in the jaws of a shark. Yet, even in these circumstances, cryonicists refuse to despair. They contend that the money that has been accumulated in your capital can be used to try to recover even the smallest bit of your anatomy. After all, a future technology that even the smallest bit is able to grow a body from a cryonically preserved head will find it no more difficult to generate head and body from a fragment of skin or bone. Similar considerations apply to suicide. If one merely wanted to end one's present existence, it would be logical to choose a method of the S word that maximized the chances of ultimately being brought back to life. If, on the other hand, the very idea of life now in the future was anathema, a violent end, perhaps by jumping in front of a train, might be the method of choice. Okay, so here's a picture, which I don't know why they show it on this page, but the Inca prints the frozen body of a child preserved for centuries in a cave on Mount Cerro del Plomo, Chile. That was quite a while ago, but you guys should see that. And what of murderers and their victims? If one committed a clean homicide by shooting someone through the heart with all the increased expectation that the victim will be frozen and later brought back to life, is one to be treated more leniently in court than if one did away with one's victim by pulverizing him in a concrete mixer? If one did resort to a violent murder which compromised the victim, cryonically speaking, should the justice system similarly deny any chance of a second coming by condemning such murderers to death in an equally final fashion? And will failure to freeze a relative lay one open to the charge of intentional homicide? If even cryonics has shown to work, it would be seen as immortality for the rich, since only the better off would be able to divert the large sums of money needed to provide for the guaranteed storage at low temperatures for perhaps hundreds, even thousands of years. It would not be an option for the poor and would be reminiscent of the posthumous treatment afforded to paupers by the terms of the Anatomy Act. And what if well-off families suddenly suffered a change in their fortunes? Is permanent death to be the penalty for default on payments? If cryonics was shown definitely not to work, what about the huge amounts of cash that would have been invested in a vain quest for life everlasting? The stock answer to questions about money, back guarantees is for a potential freeze to observe that, if by some mischance he remained dead permanently, he would surely have no need for money. This nearly eschews the issues to which others have put his money in the meantime. Chronics can evoke strong passions. Psychoanalytically, some see it merely as the substitution of repression by denial as a defense mechanism against those anxieties invoked by the prospect of death. Chronicists often claim that at least they are doing something positive to combat death and claim and not just passively accepting it is inevitable. Many see cryonics as an anti-religious movement with the expressed intention of permanently decaying salvation through death. Others are drawn to the idea of cryonics, but remain unconvinced and have a deep-rooted fear of becoming the victim of an elaborate confidence trick or the butt of a posthumous ridicule. Dora Kent died aged 83, having told her son Saul to freeze her head. Saul respected his mother's wishes, and she was decapitated and the frozen head stored to be thawed in the future. At the present time, employees of an American psionics organization are being taken to court and may be charged with murder, since the California coroner contends that the woman died as a direct consequence of the barbiturates injected into her in order to prepare the body for freezing. The coroner has demanded the head for an autopsy examination, but thawing and dissecting would obviously seriously compromise Dora Kent's chances of living again. The case continues. Damn, Cletus, that's insane. Well, on that note, we have to go to our first music break. Let me pull this up. So on this break, we have Mr. Jeff Hilliard from the Los Angeles, California area. He's going to be singing an 80s ballad called Abandon, a song that I love that's won many prizes: Consensual Sex Van, Silicone Wave, Cocknut Hills, and Good Life. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break. You probably do this all the time, baby. I know I believe in the power of love. One day is not enough. How could you abandon our love? How could you abandon our love? Drove by your house again today. Peeked in the window and I saw you smiling. It's your husband and your beautiful family. Tell me, does he know about the way we made love on the night you met me? At Johnny's Tavern at 11:37 last Thursday. You said hello. Are you my Uber driver, baby? I said yeah. Then you asked if I wanted to party. I got an
motel. We laughed, we cried, we came multiple times. The sex blew my mind. One night is not enough. How could you abandon our love? Left me high and dry. You didn't even say goodbye. Now I scream into the night. How could you abandon something that's so right? The way you touch me. Do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual sex van? Do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual sex van? Let me take you far away from all this huff and puff. There will be nothing in between our love, like a pair of doves flying high above, where nothing can touch us, touching softly. Don't let me go, I won't let you go. This is eternity with me, baby. Do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual sex van? Do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual sex van? You don't have to be alone. Come with me. Magic, healthy laughter, boundaries, safe space, unknowing mutual consent, passion, happily will be buried our souls, naked by the sea. We'll breathe the clean air. We'll be living, laughing, loving forever. Baby, do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual sex van? Oh, do you wanna go for a ride in my consensual you want, sex again. You don't have to be alone anymore. We will be together forever in love. Do you wanna go for a ride? Do you wanna go in my conceptual? Let's go. 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 Just get in the van.
I just got a package, I can't wait to get home. I spent all day tracking the shipment on my phone, all that she was lacking. I ordered custom, I can't wait to get some. Take it to the bedroom, bitch is always nagging. Now I got the air, I send this bitch is packing. Going my way, I have a new attraction. Don't care what you say, it's better in every way. Now baby, it's time to play. We're gonna make us a tape and show everyone the way. Cause I'm going my way, riding up Silicon Way. I'm on the scene, I'm on the game. With my new real dog, I'm gonna play. Just second break to my Silicon Way. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play. She don't need expensive date nights. Never talks back, I'm always right. Stuff it in her face with all my might. She don't even care, we don't ever fight. She never cries when I'm testing the suspension. We blow it up like it's fucking Armageddon. We make the videos because this is perfection. Look at this erection, I don't need protection. Cause I'm going my way, riding up Silicon Way. I'm on the scene, I'm on the game. With my new real dog, I'm gonna play. Just second break to my Silicon Way. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play. With my new real dog, I'm gonna play. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play.
The woman of my dreams.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Je suis amoureux.
Je pense toujours
Enchanté,
tu es charmant,
ma chérie. Mon
Tu es
futur
charmant.
dynastie. Ils étaient le nipple.
tu es chaud. Et moi,
It's like living on a super yacht, making love to a robot. It's like owning a football team, but having sex with a robot. It's like winning an Oscar and Emmy and Grammy when you're fucking a robot. It's like saving a family with a newborn from a fire, but you're fucking a robot. I'm going my way, riding
that can heal you. Dirty knees, desperate eyes, fill the void you feel inside. War is the fight for your life. You can get what you want and fill the hole inside. Open war is the fight for your life. You'll be free if you can make it right. Make it right. Make it right. You'll be free if you can make it right. The cock that heals. The cock that heals. You want the cock that heals. You need the cock that heals. You think you're something special. You think you've got it made. Think everybody wants you. Think you can get your way. No one really cares about you. Delusions start to fade. Your advances are rejected. You know they always are. Open war is the fight for your life. You can get what you want and fill the hole inside. Open war is the fight for your life. You'll be free if you can make it right. Make it right. Make it right. Make it right. You'll be free if you can make it right. Make it right. Make it right. Make it right. You'll be free if you can make it right.
You're nothing but an ungrateful, unworthy sinner.
You're gonna feel it right there and I'm gonna your fire. What makes you think you deserve it? What makes you think you have earned it? I know you need it. Won't you kill for me? I know you want it. Won't you die for me? You got no choice, no way to appeal. The only thing that makes you feel. The cock that heals. I got the cock that heals.
You're desperate and pathetic. Nothing but a coward. You're a fool with nothing to offer. No one will ever believe you. They see you for what you are. You're just a fraud, a shell of a person. And now the power of the spirit of hatred, the demons that haunt you. They slave you to the depths of the hate. I am the God of all. Open war is the fight for your life. You can get what you want and fill the hole inside. Open war is the fight for your life. You'll be free if you can make it right. Make it right. Make it right. You'll be free if you can make it right. Make it right. Make it right. Make it right. You'll be free if you can make it right.
Excuse me! Excuse me! You got a cigarette? Hey, you help the guy out with some spare change. Anything will do, man. Oh, God bless you. Can I just get your change? I missed the bus. I got this shit right now. I'm not a moving like a steak knife.
This is a good life.
Dancing in the moonlight.
I wanna be inside of you. We got plenty to do. Till the 1:45, and I know you wanna ride my Cadillac. Don't give me no flack. I'll put you flat on your back.
Moving like a steak knife.
That's right. This is a good life.
Dancing in the moonlight.
I'm a sexual phenomenon, and you know I'm a sexual phenomenon, and I know I'm a sexual phenomenon. We all know I'm a sexual phenomenon. Get money, get high. Don't care if I live or die. Get money, get high. Walking through classic world, the army Oswald. Dance around these funky sounds, jumping around in the ocean like I'm really cool because I have a dream in a drug. No one's looking at you, no one's your God's not gonna save you. They're hiding behind the moon, watching your every move. This is a good life. This is a good life. This is a good life.
Get money. Get money. Get high. Get money. Get high. Get money. Get high. Get high.
That's why I am muted. There we go. Now so do this. Turn off the headphones. I don't need to hear myself. Yeah, for some reason, testes, 1, 2, 3. My mic is not picking up quite as much as it generally does. Let me know how it sounds to you guys. Maybe this is a happy medium. I'm not sure. I'm barely over the music. Maybe that's what I need to do. Just turn on the music a smidge. Hey, Travis. Yeah, I saw your new pictures about your friends coming to visit you. That was pretty intriguing. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate the input. Especially from someone like you. You know, you're on the stage, you're in the movies. If you guys haven't been watching The Last of Us, Travis is actually in there. It's pretty intense. Okay, so the music and the sound, all the stuff is good. It just looks like my mic is very, very quiet. Ooh. They are around, and it seems like there's more and more all the time. If you want to come on, just let me know. Use that same link I gave you before, and you can come in, and we might talk about some of this stuff instead of me reading, but that's totally up to you. You can save it till next time if you want for the next forum, which will be on the 29th of April. Sorry, I'm kind of congested. I hate it. I had the sinus headache, then it went down, and now it's like in this region, and I don't like it a lot. Yeah, Travis, like I saw those pictures with the triangle formation. I haven't seen those yet. Like the main things I've seen are like the orbs, and then one was like a mothership, and it was going this way, and it was spinning this way, and it was spinning this way, and it's pretty intriguing. Friends in the sky all around. There are friends up there. There are also enemies. Let's get in. Just making sure I got all my duckies in a row and get rid of this one. Alright. Okay, so let's count on the third hour when I do Reddit ghost stories. How's that sound, Travis? Sounds good to me. I'm trying to. Oh, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Yes, let's try that for the third hour. But in the meantime, we're back to this book, and we're in chapter. I believe this is 4. Written on stone, the king and the commoner. On a 13-acre site leveled to within a fraction of an inch, 2.5 million blocks of limestone and granite, each with an average weight of 2.5 tons, rise up in step tiers to a height of over 460 feet. 100,000 men worked in shifts for 20 hours to complete this. Still, the most famous tomb in the world. Deep inside the structure, there is a small chamber in which stands a highly polished granite sarcophagus. It is empty. Cheops no longer rests within this pyramid of Giza. If Cheops' intention was to await eternal life safely cocooned in a mountain of stone, his empty grave attests to a misplaced optimism. If the king who conceived and built the only one of 7 wonders of the ancient world that still remains, he succeeded admirably because of his pyramid. Cheops is remembered 5,000 years after his death. The vast majority of humanity is long forgotten in 50. On 11 November 1920, King George V and Queen Mary, together with the Prince of Wales, the Duke of York, and numerous other royals, 100 holders, both British and foreign, attended the funeral of the national hero. 100 holders of the Victoria Cross lined the nave of Westminster, which he fell, is covered by a slab of black Belgian marble. Good toward God. Hold on. The inscription reads, "They buried him among the kings because he had done good toward God and towards his house." On a nearby pillar is pinned the Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest military honor of the United States of America. No name appears on the stone, despite the fact that he was buried in the most illustrious cemetery in Britain. Such is the memorial of the unknown warrior. The idea to commemorate an anonymous soldier came to the I believe that's Reverend David Railton in 1916 when he noticed a grave in a black garden in Armentières compromised a small wooden cross on which someone had penciled an unknown British soldier. What could possibly link Cheops and an unknown British soldier, a king and a commoner, individual and symbol, separated by class, country, and 5 millennia? Both are dead, and both are remembered still. The need to be remembered after death and its corollary, the fear of being forgotten, is one of the most commonly expressed anxieties. Who among the living does not feel discomfort at the prospect of being unremembered? A century from now, it will be as if we have never existed, and to most of us, that realization is deeply disturbed. And yet, in human history, billions have departed this world, unlamented, unrecorded, and unremembered. and countless billions more will follow. The lot of most of us is to be remembered by our grandchildren and be unknown to our great-grandchildren. Through the centuries, people have had recourse to many diverse strategies in order to increase the likelihood that they would be remembered by succeeding generations. Such have included burial near the pious and famous, burial close to living relatives, and construction of ostentatious or eccentric memorials. So here's a little picture. The narrow street of a Roman cemetery buried beneath St. Peter's Basilica and facing the direction of the high altar. The cemetery contains the body of an early Christian, Amelia Gorgonia, who had elected to be buried close to St. Peter himself. Okay, let me turn this over here so I can see what I am doing. All right. I don't know why it keeps blinking out. Many people have concluded that the length of time that they will be remembered after their death is directly related to the caliber of those buried in the immediate vicinity. It was for this reason that many early Christians vied to be buried close to St. Peter in Rome. In 1939, when work began in St. Peter's Basilica to lower the floor behind the high altar, a Roman cemetery was discovered. Archaeologists believe that they have identified the bones of St. Peter himself. Amelia Gorgonia, a Roman Christian, is known today simply because she contrived to be buried close to the saint, and her grave was discovered during the excavations. For reasons of sanitation, pre-Christian Romans were buried in mausoleums built on the sides of the roads leading away from the city. Okay, so they say for like purity and clean reasons, but there's been so many times where I've seen it where there's, people are stacked up and there's juices flowing from the sarcophagus and it's like flowing down, and then there's like puddles down below, and really it's not the cleanest thing. It's kind of yucky. Ew. But yeah, mausoleums are pretty nice, but yeah, I think they still have a lot to learn. Maybe they need to go back to the great Egyptians. Thank you, Travis, for letting me know that. It really means a lot. For reasons of sanitations, pre-Christian Romans were buried in mausoleums built on the sides of roads leading away from the city. The likelihood of being remembered. But with the advent of Christianity, more and more people expressed the wish to be interred within the sanctified confines of churches. The privilege was bestowed by a grateful emperor. Permission was granted for him to be buried in the vestibule of the Church of the Holy Apostles, which he himself had built. Thereby, Constantine set a precedent, which generations of lesser men and women would seek to copy. Princes, clerics, and rich benefactors came to regard burial within the church as a right rather than a privilege, and some, not content with the vestibule of nave, settled for nothing less than the chancel. The church tried hard to limit such burials, but abuse was widespread, to the extent that churches became packed with bodies of the dead, with all the attendant purpose of the health of living. From time to time, ecclesiastical edicts attempted to ease overcrowding. One such declared that only bishops, abbots, and laymen of the first distinction were to be interred within churches. The interpretation of the first frequently became a value judgment, which could be influenced by a suitably large donation to church funds. Oh yes, if your donation is large enough, then perhaps we'll put you in there, in the vestibule, right? Give me a break. The sums of money thus extorted were reckoned to be a small price to pay for the peace of mind, which came with the knowledge that one's corpse would lie in a tomb, beckoned by a long, eulogizing memorial, both sheltered from the ravages of the elements. Thus would the rich be longer remembered. But at the same time, guess what? Put that money in, dude. Okay, we pay our tithing 10%. Then I don't know if you guys heard, but recently the Mormon Church was found to be guilty of taking tithing, putting it into yes, April Fool's Day, Sandra said. No, but yeah, we give them tithing, and this is supposed to go to people in need, like people who need food, people need help with rent, people with this, that, and that, and maybe perhaps to go to certain schools. What? The LDS Church is putting it into stocks and bonds, and they got busted hardcore, so they owe billions of dollars. So that's why, like, when I pay my 10%, instead of giving it to the church, I give it to homeless people. I give it to people in need. And I don't feel bad about that. And yes, tomorrow I'm supposed to go and take my daughter to church. I still will be like, no, I am not going to pay my 10% to you, because I will tell them the proof that I've seen. And I will pay it to certain places, whether it be in Africa or here or there or everywhere. This is where my money goes, and you can't judge me because I'm doing what I feel is right. I don't know. When I give my 10% to you, I don't know where the fuck it's going. Is it going in stocks and bonds for the church? Is it going for people in need? Where is it going? I don't know. But yes, I do want to take my kids there to learn the gospel. But at the same time, ain't gonna pay my 10% to you, because just now directly is shown that you guys have perverted where my money goes. So they can't judge me on that. So the reasons of sanitation, pre-Christian Romans were buried in mausoleums. I think I already read that. Built on the sides of roads leading away from the city, the likelihood of being remembered, but with the advent of Christianity, more and more people expressed the wish to be interred within the sacrificed confines of churches. This privilege was bestowed by a grateful church upon Constantine. Yes, I did read this. So the church tried hard to limit such burials, but abuse was widespread, to the extent that churches became packed with bodies of the dead. Ew. Maybe that's where they started to build the walls underneath with like skulls and crossbones, and yeah, and it looked really cool. With all the attendant risks to the health of the living, from time to time, ecclesiastical edicts attempted to ease the overcrowdings. One such declared that the only bishops, abbots, and laymen of the first distinction were to be interred within churches. The interpretation of first distinction was often left to the decided by the local clergy, and frequently became a value judgment which could be influenced by a suitable large donation to church funds. Ain't gonna do it. The sums of money thus extorted were reckoned to be a small price to pay for the peace of mind, which came with the knowledge that one's corpse would lie in a tomb, beckoned by a long, eulogizing memorial, both sheltered from the ravages of the elements. Thus would the rich be longer remembered. Those even richer would and could bequeath money in order to build a chapel within the church, dedicated only to their remembrance. In such chantry chapels, and in return for a financial endowment, priests would be obliged to pray for the souls of the benefactors and their families. Philippe Ariès Quotes from a will dated 1416. I desire and ordain that a chapel be founded on condition that 2 monks of the abbey of the St. Florent shall say masses every day in perpetuity for the salvation and restoration of the souls of my very revered lord and husband and of my dearly beloved son. Sounds like this guy had a lot of loss, but yeah. Hey, can we pay our tithing toward these certain things? They're like, sorry, honey, baby child. We're just gonna use your tithing for whatever we see fit. Let me see how long I have after this. Yeah, this is a pretty long one. Alright, well, let's go. So, burial in churchyards. For those denied interment within a church, burial in the churchyard became the next best thing. Yet, even here, a hierarchy of sites soon became evident, and status could be judged by the position of a plot within a churchyard. The most favored sites were to the east, as close as possible to the outer wall. In such a spot, the deceased could be assured of the best view of the rising sun on the day of judgment. An added refinement was to be buried parallel to the long axis of the church, head to the west and feet to the east. I thought it was head to the east and feet to the west. I don't know. People of lesser distinction were buried on the south side, while north was considered the devil's domain, suitable only for stillborns, bastards, and strangers, unfortunate enough to have died while passing through the parish. Burial of stillborn babies. In the north of the churchyard is regarded by parents as preferable to no burial at all. In the early Middle Ages, Augustinian teaching held that the fate of unbaptized children was everlasting limbo. See, that's fucked up. Until a certain age, you really don't know right from wrong. Then you learn, and then you shall be judged. But until you're like 7 or 8 or even older, it just depends on the kid. Give me a break. Many parents try to circumvent this cruel edict by taking the dead child to the shrine of a saint and spuriously claiming that their child had miraculously revived. A hurried baptism would then be arranged, often affiliated by a layman, and when the baby subsequently died a second time, the child would be eligible for Christian burial. In the 15th century, in Marseilles, the parents of a stillborn infant who had been inadvertently buried in consecrated ground were ordained to exhume the body a year after burial. When a woman died in pregnancy, mother and child would sometimes share the same grave. At other times, the foetus would be cut from the mother's womb and buried outside the graveyard. If they died together, bury them together. Because they are one. That's what I feel. Suicides, if they were buried in consecrated ground at all, were often deposited in the north and, as an added sign of public opprobrium, laid north-south instead of east-west. Predictably, there was bound to be someone who would find an advantage in being buried to the north of the church, such as Humberside man whose headstone read, "And that I might longer undisturbed abide, I choose to be laid on this northern side." During the Middle Ages, pressure of space finally outstead the devil from the northern of the churchyard to make way for burial of locals. In our time, an English churchyard is regarded as haven of peace and tranquility. In a hectic world, the weathered entitled tombstones amid wildflowers and stately yews engendered a sense of restfulness and timelessness. The contrast with the sights and smells of an 18th century churchyard could scarcely be more stark. In their instance, that burials take place outside the city walls, pre-Christian Romans showed a better grasp of the potential health dangers of corpses than did succeeding generations. As we have seen, the innate logic of this form is disposal of the dead was lost in the Middle Ages as more and more people expected burial in God's acre as the land surrounding the church came to be known. In the 18th century, as towns and cities swelled in population, there developed a chronic shortage of space in churchyards. The first solution to this problem was simply to pack the coffins more tightly together. Later, coffins were stacked one upon the other, often to extend the ground level of some churchyards, rose fully 20 feet above that of the church floor. Holy shnikes, that's pretty bad. Another solution to the problem of lack of space was to grant only limited tenure to the occupier of a grave. Indeed, space became at such a premium that tenancy of a plot was sometimes measured in days, even hours, before the coffin was raised, removed, and another put in its place. The vicar in Hoptonstall, Yorkshire, even had recourse to reusing headstones, having them engraved on both sides. Ooh-wee-tee shame, that's not cool. With so many bodies crammed into small churchyards, it was little wonder that a hue and a cry went up in protest from people living nearby. Hello, Sheridan. No one doubted that the putrefying bodies and vile stench posed a grave risk to health, and there was no shortage of anecdotes to attest to the illness, some with fatal outcomes, that were caused by such insanitary conditions. A crusade against the pernicious practice of burying the dead in cities and towns was mourned in 1839 by a surgeon, George Walker. In that year he wrote, in gatherings from the graveyards, particularly those unwise and revolting custom of inhuming and dead in the midst of the living, it is a glorious Victorian extravaganza, replete with references to animal putrescency and noxious effluvia. My pupil, Mr. J.H. Sutton, entered the vault of St. Church, a coffin cruelly bloated, as one of the grave diggers expressed it, was chose for the purpose of obtaining a portion of its gaseous contents. The body placed upon the top of an immense number of others had, by the date of inscription on the plate, been buried upwards of 8 years. The instant the small instrument employed had entered the coffin, a most horribly offensive gas issued forth in large quantities. Mr. S., who unfortunately respired a portion of this vapor, he was instantly seized with a suffocation, difficulty in breathing, as though he had respired an atmosphere impregnated with sulphur. He had giddiness, extreme trembling, and prostration of strength. In attempting to leave the vault, he fell from debility upon reaching the external air. He had nausea, subsequently vomiting, accompanied with frequent flatulent eruptions, highly filled, and having the same character as the gas inspired. He reached home with difficulty and was confined to his bed during 7 days. So 7 days after this, he had to be confined to bed. Like, this ain't good. It was clear that the poor Mr. Sutton had contracted a fever and was to consider himself lucky to have survived. Similar acute symptoms of fever overcame Benjamin Smith, a sexton in the church of Little Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire, in 1835. Smith had lifted a stone which covered a vault in the aisle of the church in which 15 months before a child's body had been deposited. The coffin was found floating in water and giving off such a foul smell that the sexton instantly became ill with nausea, diarrhea, trembling, and prostration. Sutton and Smith were fortunate to have lived. Others were not so lucky. William Jackson, aged 29, a strong, robust man, was employed in digging a grave in the Savory. He struck his spade into a coffin, from which an extremely disgusting odor arose. He reached his home in Clements Lane with difficulty, complained to his wife that he had had a turn. The steam which infused and issued from the coffin had made him very ill. His wife stated that the cadaverous smell proceeded from his clothes, affected her with trembling, and produced headache. Jackson was ill for 3 days, but due to poverty, was obliged to return to work within a week to dig a grave in Drury Lane. Here, in his ground, long saturated with dead, it was impossible, without disturbing previous occupants, to select a grave. A recently buried coffin was struck into. The poor fellow was instantly rendered powerless and dragged out by John Gray, to whom he was an assistant. Jackson died 36 hours afterwards. Holy shit! His death was attributed to cholera contracted from the previous victim, so perhaps he got it from the dead? The Venomous 4. Hi, I want to offer promotion for your channel viewers. Okay, yeah, thank you, but no thank you. So the most celebrated case occurred in 1838 and became a cause célèbre in the attempt to forbid churchyard burials. The Weekly Dispatch of 9 September. See, I want to, let me go back. I want to erase this guy real quick, because fuck you. I don't know how to do that. Erase it. No, I don't want to show it. I want to erase it. Hide. I'll erase you later. News. Now I don't even know where I was. But, let's see. The most celebrated case occurred in 1838 and became cause célèbre in the attempt to forbid churchyard burials. The Weekly Dispatch of 9 September 1838 carried the story under the headline, 2 men suffocated in a grave. An inquest was held in Aldgate on the bodies of Thomas Oakes, the gravedigger belonging to Aldgate Church, and Edward Ludet, a fish dealer at Billingsgate Market, who came to their deaths at the forenoon under the following circumstances. Mr. Edward Cheaper, the master of the workhouse, stated that about 11 o'clock, while passing through Church Passage, Aldgate, he heard the loud screams of a female in the churchyard, and he instantly hastened to the spot and looked into the grave. About 20 feet deep, he saw the deceased gravedigger, Oakes, lying on his back, apparently dead. A ladder was instantly procured, and the deceased young man, Ludet, who by this time with several others had been attracted to the spot, instantly volunteered to descend the assistance of the Oakes. The instant he stooped to raise the head of the Oakes, he appeared as if struck by a cannonball and fell back and appeared instantly to expire. So maybe he jumped in breathed in those noxious gases and fell to his death? I don't know. Through a mixture of curiosity and philanthropy, Ludette had descended into a deep pauper's grave in which putrescent gases had replaced oxygen. Such graves were dug deep in order to accommodate up to 20 bodies, and were left open until full. Little or no earth separated the coffins from each other. Expanding on his thesis that insanitary churchyard burials caused illness and death to local inhabitants, Walker proceeded to cite the names of the worst offenders. The unluckiest, and the unhealthiest Londoners were those poor souls who lived in Clement's Lane, a narrow thoroughfare close to the Strand. Within a short distance were cited no fewer than 4 burial grounds, though including St. Clement Danes and the notorious Enon Chapel, and several slaughterhouses. The living here breathe on all sides an atmosphere impregnated with the odor of dead. The inhabitants were compelled to close their windows to keep out offensive smells, especially in summer, and walls were often seen reeking with fluids. Walker directed a special venom at Enon Chapel on the west side of Clement's Lane. The building had opened for worship in 1823 and had given over its basement to the interment of the dead. It has been estimated that between 10 and 12,000 bodies were placed in huge pits under the church. In hot weather, long black flies were commonly observed crawling out of the coffins in vast numbers. The children who attended Sunday school in the chapel nicknamed these insects body bugs. Walker likened Enon Golgotha and added, "Can it be thought that in the 19th century, in the very center of the most magnificent city of the universe, such sad, very sad memories of ignorance, stupidity, and degraded morality still exist?" It pained this patriot to answer this own question in affirmative. Let us return to consider the logistical problems of packing so many corpses into the cramped confines of the city churches and churchyards. So that brings me back to my great-great-granddad, John O'Brien. My dad was also John O'Brien, but the John O'Brien before him was buried and then interred into a mass grave. That to me is insane. And then it was made into a playground for children. Better than, an office building, but still, holy shnikes. So, let us return to consider the logistical problems of packing so many corpses into a cramped coffins of the city churches and churchyards. One solution was to employ a variant of crop rotation, whereby fresh corpses were deposited on top of coffins long since rotted away by natural processes of decomposition. A burial cycle could be initiated with 10 or 20-year gaps between the first. Second, the subsequent burials in the same spot. 2 factors mitigated against such a course of action: population and profit. The burgeoning death rate constantly outstripped the land available for burial, and the church's need for income often meant that plots had to be vacated soon after burial for occupancy by the next temporary resident. St. Giles' burial ground is frequently cited as the source of the Great Plague of 1665. There in 1838, a reporter on the Weekly Dispatch described how a newly interred coffin had been exposed and chopped away in order to make room for another. In another part of the burial ground, a drunk was digging a grave. His progress had been stopped by his spade hitting the top of a child's coffin. Undaunted, the digger hacked the coffin in 2, thereby exposing a child wrapped in its shroud. In 1839, the The Morning Post carried an equally disturbing report about burial practices. Mr. Poole was a sharp-eyed railway employee who had contacted the police after observing 2 men and a boy exhuming bodies and hurling the bits in a most indecent manner and indiscriminately into a deep hole in another part of the burial ground. Accompanied by Inspector McCaw and Sergeants Parker and Shaw, Poole set out to investigate. They discovered a black market in second-hand, hardly used funerary furniture, old coffins, bits of coffin, wood for sale as fuel, coffin plates, and coffin nails. As soon as grieving relatives had departed, and on the orders of the undertaker, these men would exhume the bodies and dump them in a vast communal grave in a remote corner of the burial ground. In this pit, Poole was able to discern arms, legs, heads, torsos, in varying degrees of decomposition. EUT Shane, we're almost done. In June 3rd. Okay, so before we go here, so here's a picture, Angels Triumphant at Kensal Green Cemetery, London. This Corinthian temple, beckoned by Baroque angels, and erected in 1870 on the memory of Mary Gibson, is just one of the large variety of magnificent monuments which qualifies Kensal Green to be regarded as, arguably, London's most distinguished cemetery. So check this picture out. That's very pretty. I like that. It's beautiful. Okay, so in June 1838, J.M. writing to the Times addressing the same problem concerning the burial ground in Portugal Street. He had occasion to notice men carrying baskets full of bones from one area of the burial ground to another, with laudable constraint, since 12 of his nearest and dearest relatives had been consigned to graves in Portugal Street. I felt that perhaps I might at the moment be viewing in the baskets of skulls that passed before me those of my own family, thus brutally exhumed. It's so sickening how people do these different things. It's very unfortunate. But on this note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. So on this break we have Jeff Hilliard from Los Angeles, California with Multitude. He's got such hip-hop, I love his music. It's amazing. He's won so many prizes and awards. You can't even keep up. Then we have Miss Mia Savage with her band Antidote for Savages. She's going to be singing The Bottom Line, Your Skeleton, Not a Phase, and Lemurian Crypto. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Drop a can drip, drip, drip. Drop a can drip, drop a can drip.
I'm on the moves, got that multitude. You think it's wrong? I could've had too long. Fuck that. Check these mullet moves. You need a multitude. I can do no wrong. Back of the head, I'm never gonna cut it.
All these hookers sweet on me. Look at them chasing me, showing me that ass. And a bang up snatch. I do this shit for free. Go down your mom till 3. She's taking selfies with the mullet like it's history. How can I maneuver you with that pussy, dude? You sit like you're waiting on it to come to you. My lines are straight to the point. She shows me gratitude. So what's your latitude? Yes, it's just your attitude. Double dually Lamborghini, all up in a skinny little yellow bugger top bikini.
I got mullet moves. I got that multitude. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that.
Alligator, double dually Lamborghini, all up in a skinny little yellow bugger top bikini.
Check these mullet moves. You need a multitude. I can do no wrong. Back of the head, I'm never gonna cut it.
Alligator, double dually Lamborghini, all up in a silly little yellow bugger top bikini. You're like the butt of a butternut cutting up panini. So climb back in your kangaroo pouch like a roll with genie. These moves are hot, these locks I got. This power cannot be disputed and it can't be bought. So you can find me in the studio with all these thoughts. You wanna bite my style, but you can't be what you're not, neighbor.
I got mullet moves. I got that multitude. You think it's wrong? Back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these mullet moves. You need a multitude. I can do no wrong. Back of the head, I'm never gonna cut it.
Yeah. Just remember how my mullet makes your hoes pussy drip, drip, drip.
I got mullet moves, I got that mullet too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long, fuck that. Check these mullet moves, you need a mullet too. Never gonna cut it. I got mullet moves, I got that mullet too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long, fuck that. Check these mullet moves, you need a mullet too. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it.
Drip, drip,
Mullet moves.
Just a mullet, bitch.
drip, drip.
Mullet moves. Never gonna cut it.
Angel on my shoulder. Devil in my bed. Forget my behavior. Didn't mean what I said. Bottom line is without you, I'm torn and
It's a lie. But we'll kill those big guys and try to tell us that they're Muslims. They want the demons running around. But it doesn't matter. Because it's just a lie. And we can change it anytime we want. It's all to do with the choice. No record, no work, no job, no savings or nothing. Just a choice right now. Between fear and love.
I'm torn and wide control.
There's a choice right now between fear and love.
I'll be you again. Break us out of this cycle. Give me words to bring you in. Take a moment with my breath. Come with me and start again. And I know I can't breathe with you for days. I will go nowhere. My love is not a phase. Our love is not a phase. Run away with me tomorrow. Won't you, baby, take my hand?
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us on We are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So I'm hoping Travis Villier, Mustus, where you at? Are you here? Because Travis was going to come in and he was going to speak with us a bit. Let me see, are you here? Waiting. Yeah, you know, if he doesn't come through, we can just do ghost stories from Reddit. And that's a pretty good one that we do. We're just waiting to see if he's going to come through. Deep damn shenanigans. Where the heck is Travis Williams? Mistress. Are you coming in? In. Please. Yeah, it takes a lot to type these things sometimes, but it'd be amazing if he did come in because he's got some epic stories to share, for sure. Ding, 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 dong. I'll have this branch open just in case. Okay, well, I'll see him coming through right now, so I'm going to go to Reddit Ghost Stories. You know, that's where we generally go. Ooh, the cloud stays there the whole day. No, I've seen those too here, and I'm like, that's like some sort of something for alien UFOs, etc. to hide behind. Let me see if Travis is coming through. Dropbox. Let's see anything about Travis. Travis, if you want to come through, that'd be cool, but we're gonna go here. The ghost stories in Reddit is gonna be fun. Ding, 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 it's done. Ghost stories, here we go. There's not a lot. Okay, Hush is one of them. This is by u/trip-compote9001. I'm new here, but this is not the last you'll be hearing from me. I've had some spooky shit happen to me in my lifetime, but I figured I'd start back at the very beginning with a story that's not mine. When I was a baby, my biological mother and great aunt still had custody of me. For some extra context, my biological mother was a stay-at-home mom, and my great aunt was on disability and didn't work. One afternoon, my biological mother, oh my gosh, had just put me down for a nap in my crib upstairs. She made it halfway down the staircase, and I started to cry again. Before she could turn around,
My great aunt rushed past her up the stairs and into the bedroom, shushing me loudly. I stopped crying, so my bio mom continued down the stairs and into the kitchen. To her surprise, my great aunt was sitting at the kitchen table. In a panic, my bio mom ran back upstairs, and so what she had been running up the stairs for was what? Why did she run up the stairs? And she's wondering, why did she run back up the stairs? Somebody, Wolfwood's sister said, doppelganger time, and Enorme Procrastinator said, that's terrifying! I don't know, what do you think? Family's Demon Manifest 1, Part 1, Experience. Before I start this story, please know that these are some accounts of my own as well as friends and family. This is exaggerated. I refuse to go back near the house. I've never made this story public until now. When I was in high school, I lived in a house with my parents and brothers in Southern California. It was a rental with a raised foundation, which made it very easy to hear who was walking around. My family was not a cookie-cutter family and was not perfect in any way. In fact, most of the time it was constant fighting, yelling, and overall negativity within the house. Though I will not give or go into any specifics. My father was a very abusive person and made living in the house a literal nightmare. It is my belief that all of this negativity and anger is what caused whatever this thing was that manifested. About a year into living in this house is when things started to happen. Mostly, it just started as footsteps to happen. Mostly, it just started up and down the hallway when everyone but myself was sleeping. We also had a small dog, but it was very distinct when jingling sound would come from her collar and putter around and patter on the wood floor. These footsteps were very distinct and wasn't anyone because my door, per my dad's rules, was wide open at night. If someone were walking, I'd be able to see them walk. Past the door, clear to this as day. Yet every fourth the walking would happen back and forth through the hall and into the resorting in my phone and watching, frightening me, would stay awake on the peak and could hear my parents rustling around, and the room would occur for a couple of months until activity really started to ramp up. I don't know, I'm thinking like paranormal activity just happens and you can't really keep that from going on. Owen Barry says, oh man, when is part 2? Looking forward to reading that. Or reading more. Yeah. Anything from you? You have a story? You around? Oh, Travis. Yeah, to the stream. Oh no, it's not letting me. Travis, hello. Come in whenever you can. Oh, there you are.
Hey. I was just listening to your little mystical music there.
The sound
Just painting a little battle scene.
Okay, so you said you had some new UFO experiences?
Yes. Yes, I did. There's
Sorry, I can't hear you at all. Hold on.
You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, I see you talking, but I can't hear you. Hold on 1 second. Let me press on this.
I can leave and join back.
Edit mic settings. No. Shit. Hold on. I know you're talking! Hold on! I'm trying to get you in here. Cause damn, brother. You like chopping. Okay, maybe it's... No, I have you on here too. Like, this is so weird. Okay, voice meter. Let me do this. I think it's this one. Voice meter input, voice meter output. A voice meter output. Voice meter input. Hold on, trying to find it. This is insane. I'm like, I can see you talking and you're just like, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, I can't hear shit. Primary sound capture? Oh, no.
No? Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Oops, output. This one. Come on. Jeez, oh, Pete. Dude, I'm trying to add you. Okay, add a stream. Yeah, I see you talking, but I can't hear you. Okay, hold on.
Hello?
Por favor.
There we go. No?
Maybe I could fix it over here.
Hello? Nobody can hear me, eh? Okay. Oh no!
Okay, so I'm gonna say voice meter aux output. I see you, but I can't hear you. Oh, okay. Now I see what I'm doing. I think I need to do an input. Because I have one voice aux meter output. I think this needs to be an input. Hold on. Hope this works. Stop this one. Output. Okay. Can I hear you now?
Hello. Tanse Manando. Tanse.
This is so weird. Okay, let me see.
That's my mandolin now.
I'm sorry, Travis. This is really
That
weird.
is fine.
Let me go over here. Do my audio. Output. Oh.
Hello?
VIO. Oh, I think I heard you just now. Are you there?
Yeah. Hello. There we go.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No, I was kind of like, I was just, at first I was joking around there, and then I was like, oh no, it's for real.
I was like, what the frack? And I'm hearing this music. I'm like, well, this is kind of trippy.
Yeah, you're mute. Yeah, the music. Yeah, no, it was totally sending me on a trip that I'm like, it felt like an endless level on some game I couldn't beat or something.
I know we're like MVP and you're trying to kill things and no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that I can finally hear you. And you're here! Holy shnikes, yeah. I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you? I finally deciphered the code. Salut.
Yes. And so you're asking me about the stuff I was sending you, right? The pictures and the little video, and there's a couple of them. There was one that was like pretty solid, like 3 lights. You can obviously see that one, and then the other one was a 2 minute long, and it was like just a solid bright light that actually stopped mid flight too. And you know what's real great is I know my camera's capabilities. I know my camera can zoom in on that thing, but it just blocked it. It just like literally blacked out my whole like camera. Just zoomed like, yeah, you seen that, eh? Like I couldn't get close to it, but
Yeah.
like I could zoom in into the moon and see the like the mountain on the moon and all that stuff. Like like so. Like they can't, like that, you can't say that was the space station because of the first off it stopped, and then also like the fact that it just messed with my. Huh? Sorry, go ahead.
That was right there. Like seriously, that was right there. Like you said, that's not a space station. That's not this. That's not that. Like it's right there. And
Yeah.
you've had these different things going on with the solar flares and everything, and you even had a dragon coming and all kinds of immense
The
things.
dragons,
Like
man. Yeah.
that. Oh my god, I can't even imagine. But then you have this triangular thing, and you're just like, I see you.
Yeah. And it was real wild because like it was just flying, it was like going by, and actually that one was actually going opposite direction than all the usual crafts like tend to fly. This one was going opposite, and it was fast. Like I tried to like drive down the road to see if I could still see it going in the distance, but it was gone by the time I even reached anywhere that would look,
You got
a couple miles down.
Ching ching,
Yeah.
and I was like, holy shit.
It was,
And that has showed up, whether it's like right side up or upside down.
They fly weird.
Yeah, like sometimes upside down, sometimes the right side up. It just depends on how they're feeling. I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of right side up for you. And these things have shown up, and for you to see that and record it, that was amazing. Seriously. I was like, hell
And
yes.
but yeah, they'll like I've also been seeing like a lot of like in the UFO like ufology networks and stuff like that, like just a bunch of different UFO orb videos from all over, from UK to Australia and all sorts of areas. You've been seeing these orbs, bright orbs in the sky. South America has been getting a lot of those videos too and stuff, but like it's just cool when you get to see one. It's cool when you get to see to see the ships. Like me, I think it's cool. Like seeing that kind of stuff in the universe. Why not? You know what I mean? Like it is that vast place.
Saying like, why this shit is happening, and it is. So you put your record in, and then other people can share it, and we've done that in real time with Johnny Banani, which I'm still like, is that your real name? But I think it is. And then Robert White and all these other people, like, we're like, hey, we've seen the same stuff. And even the same things have showed up over Washington, D.C., like pyramid like this, and then it goes upside down. It's like this. But it's like, why is it a pyramid? That's so weird, because we have pyramids, but there's pyramids in space. It's so intense and immense. It's just like, what the frack is happening? I think that's
it's beautiful.
Pyramid is like pew, 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 like
yeah. Something about like it's like the geometry, right? Geometry, shapes of the universe, and like how like I had a thing I was saying on Dave's show the other night there. I filled in for Buddy, but he was saying he was asking me a question, and I was like, yeah, like like looking out at in the woods is like you're seeing a lot of what's out there in wilderness is actually reflections of the universe, vast universe that's out there. You know what I mean? So you get out there, you're actually learning and connecting with the universe. You know what I mean? And you get to see this, right? And in the magic in that, the beauty of that, right? But Yeah, I was, so it's like, you're connecting with all that, like you said, the universe, it like you said, it's a much more fuller experience. I like to see when we get to be amazed again and see some of these magical, the magic, I like to call it magic, when we see some of these orbs
It
or
is
these
magic.
things in the sky. Huh?
It is magic because, like, with my first two kids, like Kinsey is just like, I don't know. She was born. I'm like, where the fuck did you come from? Because she's like jibber jibber jabber jabber. I'm like, very silent person. I'm like, holy shit, where the fuck do you come from? And then there's Nova, and she was very silent. And then she started talking later. And then the other two kids, very fucking different. My son was born with fingers on his right hand. It's like one of those old school giants, which was like, I have an extra protruding thing on my hand, which Native Americans did not like.
No,
But
we liked some. We liked some. We liked some of the Giants. There were some that were good. Like that, not all of them were bad. It just there were some that were like more hostile and didn't like human beings at all. Like they like that even goes down south, like down like in those American tribes down south of us. And
recently, that was down in shit. I want to say Madagascar, but it was in South America, and it was in, oh my god, I can't remember the name. But there was a cave there, and there was a giant. And he's just sitting there, and he's looking around and going all around. And he's like kind of like pivoting and doing whatever he can, like he's going back into his cave.
yeah,
That was Mazatlan, Mexico. And I'm
yeah,
like, we're
that makes
supposed to
sense.
go horseback riding. And then my sister is like, I'm too heavy for the 250-pound thing. So let's do something else. So we're going to go kayaking instead. But I'm like, I'm just interested to see, like, can I see this little crevice in the mountain where this giant was like peeking out? And he wasn't like being protrusive. He was just like peeking out. And then he's like trying to maneuver his way around. And he's like going back and forth and going back into his cave. And I'm like, that was super fucking epic because it wasn't anything like outlandish, but he was just kind of like maneuvering and like, yes, I see the outside world. It ain't, coming towards me. So I'm just going to go back in here and eat some sheep or whatever the fuck I find, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was pretty intriguing.
Yeah,
I
it's in the
didn't know.
Zuni origin stories, like when they came up from the inner earth, when they came up to live in the upper world, the like the star guides, there was like a disc or something, or some sort of star guide that was there guiding them in the sky. But when they were crossing the rivers, this is the story that like as they traveled the land to find their new home in they were crossing rivers and they came across a giant, and the star guide blasted the giant with a ray. This is in their origin story. You can go look it up. And so like this, the star beings are helping them like get across the land because this like vile giant was trying to kill them and take them home. So it just blasted them, from the
Because
sky. So
I was
like
like,
this UFO just blasted this giant. Yeah, yeah. And then like not only but like there's a lot of these tales like that where the UFOs help the people. Like even Alexander the Great, the last castle he conquered, there was a UFO that blew the gates because that castle was supposedly like an impenetrable fortress. Nothing was gonna take it down. But then UFOs blew the front gates and Alexander the Great's armies moved in. But like like so like there's those stories and stuff. But like I was saying on Dave Scott. I was saying on Dave Scott's radio the other night. Sorry, but I was just gonna let me just finish off this last little bit. I messed up and I said in the north that the Inuits were calling for our help, and we went with I said Bigfoots, but I got kind of caught up in my story. I meant to say the giants. There were some sub giants that were really friendly to us, and we actually did live alongside of them. And like here in Creeland in our area, like we have a lot of giant people. Like there was a guy, he was my relative, my uncle, more or less my cousin, but we just consider him in native world, he would have been my uncle. But yeah, he was like a 7-foot tall guy. Like literally Vince McMahon came to our reserve and wanted to recruit him to be in the wrestling world. Like, you know what I mean? Because he was that big of a monster back in the time, like in the 80s and 90s and stuff. But I'm just saying, like there was like a lot of these people like in our culture, in our tribes that were really tall because of this bloodline that was really tied to the giants. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we the giants is like 7-8 foot tall. Like these giants are fucking mountainous. Like Sleeping
Yeah.
Mountain here.
Yeah, the
Okay,
ones
so
we're
we're
talking about. Yeah,
graduating.
yeah.
Well, there's
And
this
then
giant.
origin stories, yeah.
God is like, arms crossed like this. So you see his
Yeah.
toes go up through his legs. You see his arms crossed at the top. You see his face, his headdress, everything. This is a
Oh yeah.
mega giant. And okay, so there's the mega giants, there's the ultra mega giants, and then there's the regular giants. The one that I saw in Mazatlan, Mexico, like, and this, okay, so I could see, like, if people were trying to be like, oh, we're going to, retrospect and do this, and we're going to do this in digital and whatever, like, he'd be doing different things, but this guy was, like, looking out the front of this hole, and he's kind of, like, moving around like this, and then he moves sideways, and he's like, okay, no, I'm going to go back in my hole.
Yeah.
He was looking around, and at first you couldn't tell what it was, but then the camera focused and it's like, holy shit. Hello? Oh my god, my door just opened. That was creepy. But he was like, holy shit, like looking around, like, but this was a big guy, and oh, hello. And Mr. Kung Pao Kitten is here. He's
Oh.
Kung Pao Kitten now. Yeah, he's like looking around. He's like, looking down, looking up, whatever. And I'm like, I totally fucking get that perspective. And then he goes like this, and he kind of moves around, and he moves backwards because he's got a very small space that he can move about in. So he's just looking around and looking in, looking out, and then he goes back to wherever the fuck he's eating bones or something. Look at this
Yeah,
guy.
probably. Oh, teleporting around, teleporting kitties. Yeah, no. Yeah,
His
that
mom is
that looks
black.
like a sweet one.
Yeah, his
Yeah,
mom is black.
I have a real peculiar. He's a little weirdo. I don't know where he is at right now, but yeah.
I know this guy stalks me all the time. I'm like, my stalker kitten, get out.
He likes you. Yeah, never mind. They're all weird. But yeah, no, it's a
Yeah.
pleasure to pop on here and chat about some of the ships and crafts that have been spotted around recently.
You had the dragon thing going on, and then you had the pyramidal thing. What do you feel the
Oh, I
difference?
expect I
Like
expect
different
more.
aliens or what? What do you think that is?
For
Okay, so first you saw the whole dragon thing, and then you saw something
Yeah.
else, then the pyramid thing. What do you think the difference in transition is?
Yeah, I think like some of the guardians are returning, the dragons are returning to the earths and in the spirit realms and all sorts of physicality. You know what I mean? Like different dimension, higher frequencies. They're there, they're around, they're returning. Also for those other ones that have been around, like I think because of all the electromagnetic solar, everything, like they've been popping more in our frequency, like because we're at such a heightened level, like we've discussed how we're just like antennas, and all these like unseen forces are just entering in through us, like say from the earth into our mind, our third eye in our mind, and we're perceiving all this energy that's flowing around us, and our mind tries to make it and stream it together so it looks like like what this reality is. But these things are there, they're around, and
They are.
and during some of these times, like solar waves and these solar frequencies, and they get high, like they're high frequency, and boom, sometimes we'll just pop into frame and be able to see some of these things, or they'll all of a sudden they'll disappear, appear and go away, and like different things, or even like higher activity for spiritual activity in certain areas. That's another thing too. Not just the UFO. So like seeing the dragon spirits in the sky, the wind spirits, all that stuff, like the lights, it was a beautiful sight to me. That's a beautiful thing because it's from the light, right? Like if it's from the light, it's great, it's a good thing, like it's there, it's from from the universe. So there, it's to me it was a good thing, to see the dragons again, and
It's
hold the
amazing.
dragon.
It was crazy, and I was talking about this last week. I'm like, we're driving home, and there's this place where this very large American flag flies, and I see these red solar flares. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is the mountain on fire? Come to find out, it was like northern lights going on. It was like red flares behind the mountain. I was like,
Yeah.
shit, do I need to call the fire department or whatever to go put out this fire? No, it's a solar flare. It's a yeah. It was insane. I was like, I didn't expect that down this low, but it's crazy like how these different flares are going lower and lower and lower. And I think somebody else was talking about this earlier too. I don't see it here in the chat room, but somebody else lower than us in Colorado were like, hey, we saw the northern lights too. And I'm like, what? Like, that to me is pretty intense. It means like things are going lower and lower and lower, and the weather is getting more and more intense. And I don't know if you believe in global warming, but I don't know. I think it's a thing and it's really happening. And people are like, oh, well, if we don't do this, it's okay. It's not okay. You're fucking the earth. And shit is happening. And I feel bad for the polar bears and the penguins and the seals and all these other things. They're so confused. They don't even know what to do because it's just like ching ching ching, different things being thrown at them, you know?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very
all the yeah, no, it's always changing, and the world's changing, and like even in ancient times, with how the lands changed and everything, like the pole shifts and whatnot. But like I'm talking, like over the millions and millions of years, the Earth's always changed, and the temperatures fluctuated, and like even showed like in the dinosaur times that solar waves were even more hotter than what they are now, and that's what was they think was the real cause of all the giant trees and all that, like with the high amounts of oxygen as well. But at the same time, what I'm getting at though is just like it's always changing. Expect changes, like waters to rise and these other things. And but
that's the
there are things like I feel like we are going to do in the future to clean up a lot of this stuff. And
yeah.
that's what I think.
The only thing that
That's what I think.
stays change. And I even read back like a long time ago, they're like, hey, these trees are too high, like these aren't acceptable. And those are the trees in California that everybody goes to look at. And they're like, we need to cut these down. These are unacceptable. These are too tall. These are taking too much. But are they taking too much or are they giving
No,
too much? I don't freaking know. The
those
great
redwoods.
Oh, they're so beautiful. Like I want
Yeah.
to I do. I want to drive through one. I want to hug one. Like, even if it's like this, I want to
Yeah.
experience that because that to me is like original land, like love or magic. But yeah, people are
Right.
like,
It is.
that's
Yeah. They're prehistoric trees. Like, they're amazing. I've only, walked through a few like those like real like fantastic giant forests a few times. And yeah, you do get that. It's wondrous to look up and it's almost like it's endless. It's so high, like buildings. Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, it's just
It
like
is.
when I was looking up at skyscrapers in Miami, I'm like,
Yeah.
what shit? Like, what? It's this big and this tall, and I can't even measure. That's just like the trees in California, same thing. Like, had I been there, I'd be like, what is this wide and this tall? I cannot even measure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
it's nature, and then they carve it out, and you can drive through it or whatever, or you can wrap your family around it or whatever. And no, people don't even have that same respect anymore. They're just like, whenever it's a redwood.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's become like a real like like a resource thing. Yeah.
Historic. This is immense. This is intense. Like, how do you not see the measure of what this is? And they're like, well, I could go swim with dolphins or whales or something. I'm like, yeah, you could, but this is different. These are trees that have lived forever. But yeah, there's a lot of people saying like they shouldn't be along for this amount of time. Why? I don't get it. Like to me, okay, so there's certain places where, it's been cut off and it's kind of like a stump, team stump, team rock, team whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there's been giant trees in the past.
Yeah.
I know volcanoes. I know there's been certain things. What do you think? Like,
Yeah.
does it vary? I think it does. I think it does vary.
Well, yeah, like the giant, like the fact that there was like, huge like monstrous creatures, I mean, 65 million years ago. Like the giant thing doesn't surprise me either. And like the old mythology about it, like, in the tales is like that they were made from stone, right? That the giants were made from stone, right? And that's what they had returned to. So, like it doesn't surprise me that a lot of these mountains are, they look like people or, giants, that's them, when they laid there for the last time, or, you know what I mean? Or, they took their last stance. Yeah. 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 And they just laid down, like, and, yeah, there's still some, like even some of the places it looks like they're just like, just pieces of them poking out, like the heads or even like, like the,
You got the toes, you got the legs, you got the cross arms, you got the head, you got the headdress, and they're like, this giant is going to rise up and kill all the white men. I'm like, what? I was like, I thought I was part Cherokee, but then I'm like, I'm fucking Irish British. Discovered.
yeah. And then then you hear about and then you hear about the origin, origins, like in my Cree people, what we think is we're shaped by the elements of the, with the earth and the air and the water and the fire, what I mean? The fire, the light from the sun, like, you know what I mean? And but like when we die, we return, when we die, we return to that, you know what I mean? Like, so we become back to like the dirt and the clay and stuff, we return back to the earth. It's like a circle of life, right? And but like that's like, the same thing with the giants too. Like they return back to the being stone, that they're made from stone, they return back to it. So it doesn't, to me, that doesn't surprise me, or it doesn't, to me, it makes total sense.
You need to rise up and be like
we wouldn't, we wouldn't,
I will kill you. Hey, I respect you and I hope you don't crush me, but maybe we can be friends. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there were some real mean ones. Like there were some real feral mean ones that were like more monstrous than any kind of like, intellectual. But there were some to the north that were intellectual and they had buildings.
And I actually have artifacts from both sides, and I always respected it because I learned about it in science class. I was like, I'm not gonna disrespect you because I believe this is a living fucking being. I believe this thing is sleeping, and I'm just like kind of tiptoeing around it and getting different artifacts. I have different people's like different things of pottery and shit like that, and holy shit, if it does rise up and try to kill me, even since I'm not Cherokee, I'm not Native American, I'm just like a British, Irish American. They're like, oh no, don't kill me. Because I have the most respect for it and I've always believed in it. And I'm like, I don't know, I always felt like if I believe in it, it's not going to kill me. But yeah, he was like sleeping like this forever, like this with his arms in front of him. And his legs going down and everything.
Right, yeah. No, I get it. I'm just laughing, we're going right into this now, and it's good. I'm happy about this. Like, I have tons of giant stories. Like, this is like, a big, a thing. I like it. I enjoy talking about it. This topic. There was like the intellectual ones to the north. They were the ones like they were far out. They had like an ice keep, in the mountain, and stuff like that, and they had like all these like sort of like I said, they had this portal technology that was able to get them to the moon. They were able to leave and stuff like that, and with a lot of the a few of the animal races beings and stuff, but like they always kept to themselves. They kept people away. People would get taken out if they went close to there, stuff like that. And but like at the end of the day, there was like natives that were like like, you know, they were friends with like a lot of these taller beings, like even in the forest, like they lived amongst the tribes, some of these beings and people, tall people. And there was the Vikings when they first landed out in the Northwest Territories, and they were taking out the, you know, the Iqaluit people, like, you know, all those the Inuit people, I should
I was
say.
thinking about the
And
Vikings, like they not only went to the
they,
northwest and shit, they went up
yeah,
the fucking rivers and they went beyond, and
yeah,
that's where we
yeah,
get
yeah,
the wide
and
natives. Pretty intense.
yeah, and the Eskimos, they called upon the Crees and the Crees from the, you know, Ontario and, you know, all throughout the north there, North Canada, and we came up with our with the people, like the big ones, the big guys too, and the Vikings were freaked out. They're like, they got forest giants with them, you know, like they got these like guys, you know, they're like, let's get out of here, we got to get, and it's written down in history. They're like the Scrags got giants on their side. They got forest giants on their side because like that's what they refer to us as the Scrags, because that meant people who wore animal furs and stuff, right? So, but yeah, they called us Scrags.
Well, yeah, there's animal furs and shit like that, but there is giants, and I do believe giants exist. Like I'm saying, the Sleeping Ute Mountain, like it's got its shoulder, like its elbows crossed like this. So you see the headdress, you see the head, you see the elbows crossed. It goes down. You see the little peanut like bump, and it goes down towards the legs. You see the knees, you see the toes, you see all this shit. This is a giant, and supposedly, in the end of days, it's supposed to rise up and kill all the white men. I'm like, well, I'm not just ordinary white man. Don't kill me. I used to think I was Cherokee, and then I did my DNA test, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm super white. I'm still mourning my Cherokee ways because I always believed I was through my mom, but come to find out, I'm not. I'm like Irish and British and I'm African American and all this other shit. I'm not Cherokee. And I'm just like, wah, wah. I feel so sad about it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm mourning my Cherokee ways because I always believed in it my whole fucking life. And then I discover I'm not. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why?
I, I had a hard time understanding. Yeah, good thing you explained there. Now I get it. That's it's kind of funny now, but no, that's great. That's great. That's well, you know what? At least you have a nice understanding of it now, and you know, you're considering these things, you know, which were I'm sure mind opening you know, concepts, right? And that's what it's about, right? These mind opening perceptions that help us all grow to achieve a more positive life force in the universe, right? And that's what I'm about. I'm just happy to share some of these stories and enlighten some of the folks out there with you know, some of these ancient tales that I've you know, had like, you know, inside of me for over the years. And yeah, no, so it's always a pleasure to come talk on here, you know. I don't mind.
I heard that like you had one of your paintings picked up by somebody else and they're like, hey, we want to share this somewhere else. Like somebody actually picked up your paintings and was intrigued and interested and like, hey, we'd like to share this somewhere else. That is awesome, brother. Like, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was I did a bunch of well, every now and then I'll just do a painting, and I'm like, well, you know what, I don't know what this is about, or who, like, well, not what it's about, but who is this, what this was for, or who this was for, you know. I think it will be a gift, you know, and then I give it away as a gift or something, you know. But I started giving them away to establishments, like in my, you know, my local, well, my area, and you know, all over. I started, you know, giving away just to businesses that I, you know, places that I liked and stuff like that I went to, and you know, and all of a sudden, yeah, some local lady seen my painting and she loved it, and she was hosting some sort of art show and wants me to go and do it now. So I'll be out there presenting a lot of these cool paintings, like as like just showpieces, and then I'll have like tons there for sale for cheap too, because like I I I don't know, but I have like probably well over 100 paintings that are just sitting there, like it's starting to stack. They're stacking up. Like there's no room on the walls. There's no more room on the walls.
Yeah, I got here in my truck and I'm selling shit, but now it's gonna be on the walls. Like to me, that's the comeuppance. Like you're moving on up. and you're doing good. Super proud
Oh,
of you.
it's for the art, yeah. And then I'm also doing things like I'm doing like a role playing game over Discord, and then people are joining that. But and I've been doing like a sub fee for that. So like I mean, I've been having fun with that and doing like tons of artwork for that too. And like people have been just enjoying the adventures and really like I said, it's been wondrous. Like I went from just like a small map to like a whole broad spectrum like of like a whole like couple pages taped together now. And yeah, it's fun, but like I said, like it's been good. So like I've been doing a lot with my art. It's been, you know, it's living its own dream until I yeah.
I'm trying to write
In
down how
time.
on Discord. My pen's not working. So where do I find you on Discord for this? Where do
Oh,
I find you?
send me your name on Messenger, and I'll add you as a friend tonight. Well, probably after this. Then yeah, because I'm like I said, it's like there's a few people playing and it's been good. So, but
Oh, yes, I'd love to do that. That'd be awesome. Like Discord. I know, and a bunch of people are like, "Oh yeah, a lot of Discord happens on Discord." I'm like, not always. Like I've seen some good things happen on Discord, but some people think of it as negative. But I'm like, it's all good.
hmm. Oh well, yeah. No, I don't like I said, this was like is more or less meant for like a gaming community that's like and it's chat based reply. Like it's not like over like how we're chatting right now. Like I don't do that. Like instead, it's like text based reply. So you know, what I mean,
Yeah,
you'll yeah, I'll give you a laydown of like the whole the scene, the situation, you know, what I mean, then I'll throw a picture in there, and then you know say something, you decide something, and then I'll do a roll, and then the dice decide if that's a successful or it's not.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's
I
pretty
know.
it's pretty simple. Like, and then I go through all the character creation with you and all that stuff. So it'll be fun. Well, I mean, like that's what I've
I
been doing.
wrote
But
good.
other than
Look at
that, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Definitely. And this was a little different than we usually do. Generally, I'd be reading Reddit ghost stories, but talking to you about this random stuff is pretty awesome. But thank you
Oh
so
yeah.
Travis Mistus for being on. It was amazing.
Yes. 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 Everybody, take care. I'll see you around.
Okay, so where do I find you on Discord?
Um, you could just message me it will say your friend. Actually, you know what? I'll send you an invite. I'll send you an invite to the group. Sound
Nice.
good? Okay.
Thank you
All right.
once more
Yes.
for
Yes.
being our friend here.
Later.
Um,
Peace
later.
out.
No, it's been amazing. And thank you to everyone out there listening tonight. Without you, there is no us, and please take care of my yous. Night, night, love and light, and I will see you back here, same time, same bat crazy place. Night, night, love and light. Mwah. Bye. This is supposed to be bye. Yes, in broadcast.